And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we get ready for race number 5 of the season for the RTG Aero 88 series. We are here at the 2.5 mile super speedway known as Indianapolis Motor Speedway, one of the crown jewel races on any racing circuit. One driver here tonight is going to be able to kiss the yard of bricks. The question is, who will it be? As in the first 4 races this season, Only 13 drivers have taken a green flag tonight, by far the biggest field that there has been, as a total of 28 drivers will be taking part in tonight's festivities. And why this is so important is because of the fact that so few drivers have run the first 4 races. The points are really close. A lot of drivers can gain points, a lot of drivers can lose points during the course of what happens in today's event. One thing that we've also been told that it is realistic damage, realistic weather for tonight's event. And so these drivers not only going to have to battle each other, but going to have to battle the changing conditions of the racetrack. And Indianapolis is one of those strange technical racetracks in the fact that it's not turns 1 and 2 as sweeping circular corners. You've got those small straightaways between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, which a lot of times when drivers are fighting a tight condition can just exemplify something like that. We've also got the fact that there's really long straightaways. These drivers here tonight, they will be utilizing the draft as much as possible on those straightaways to try and set up a pass into turns 1 and 3. And on top of that, Indianapolis isn't really one of those higher banked racetracks. So you've got to hope that that right rear tire is going to be able to get that little bit of gradual banking to allow you to turn in the corner, because if it doesn't, that outside wall is going to get you in a hurry. And as mentioned, with realistic damage, that can really affect the speed of your race car for the remainder of the run. It's 70 laps here tonight at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Bob Dixon will line up on the pole position. He'll be alongside of Robert Balcom. Row 2 is going to find Chuck McClure and Jeff Supa, Jessica Shelton and Dave Melson in row 3, Sean Kerrigan and Chris Elliott in row 4. Completing the top 10 is going to be Andre Mahjong and Frank Rivard. As mentioned, 28 drivers to take the green flag here. We'll run down through the rest of the starting grid as Jack Dussault will start 11th alongside of Jeffrey Elliott, Mike Brush and Andre Charest in row 7. Tony Fox, nice to see him back in the field. I heard that he was in the Aero 88 race last week. He's back again this week. Nice to see him. He's rolling off in the 15th position alongside of Jim Black. Jim Glued and Orlando Lavoie in row 9 to clean the top 20 are going to be Richard Martin and Brian Wolf, who comes into this race second in the point standings. Robbie Nisus will roll off from 21st alongside of Stefan Martel. Manny D and Benoit Plord, that's going to be row 12. Terry Baumann did not lay down a lap time. He'll be starting this race in 25th. Bob Seminara in 26th. 27th will be Bob LaChance, and 28th will be Jeremy Jeffries. 25th through 28th did not take a lap time here in terms of speed in qualifying. Point standings coming into this race are as follows. Benoit Plord, a 2-time winner, winning the season opener and last week's race as well. He's got 18 points in hand over a 2-way tie between Brian Wolf and Terry Baumann. 18-point separation there. Bob Dixon, our pole sitter tonight, is 30 points back in 4th. Andre Charest is 5th. He is 36 points back. Billy Elliser is 70 points back in 6th. Manny D, 78 points back in 7th. And Jack Dussault's the only other driver that's less than triple digits behind the points lead. He's 81 points back, 8th in the standings. Of our former winners here this season, all 3 of them are in the field tonight. We already mentioned Benoit Plord, our winner from California, and Barber Motorsports Park. Terry Baumann won the second race at Kansas, and MTR Speedway saw Brian Wolf go to victory lane. And so we've got 2 drivers trying to join Benoit Plord as a multi-time winner this season. A lot of drivers in the field, though, want to get their first win of the season, as Bob Dixon's going to bring his Dodge down here at a measly 70 miles per hour, and he'll get ready to get us underway here tonight at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we are racing at the Yard of Bricks. It'll be interesting to see if these drivers continue to run each other double wide through most of the first laps here while the tires are fresh, and how long it will take for them to start single filing out. As you saw right there, Chuck McClure was easily able to make the pass on Robert Balcom, who may have already been feeling that tight sensation on the outer groove. Jessica Shelton right behind him in that 4th position, followed by the 11 of Jeff Kutzba. And they're already single file all the way back through at least the top 10 as McClure looks to take the spot away from Bob Dixon, trying to see if he can lead the first lap. Got a nice run there through 3 and 4, right onto the back bumper of the 143. will not make a move, at least here at the start-finish line. Might be setting him up for a slingshot down into turn 1. That's something we're going to have to watch for as well. At Indianapolis, it doesn't matter if you're in open wheels, if you're in stock cars, you don't really want to make that move late going into turns 1 or 3, because the driver that you're behind not really going to expect that, and you may end up either going down into his line, or he may try and throw a late block, in which both of you will end up possibly getting wrecked. And I fully expect to see in this race, at least this early portion, we're going to see all these drivers snaking their way around single file, just based on the fact it is realistic damage. The speeds that they're carrying right now just through the corners alone is 170 plus miles per hour. So any impact you make, whether it be the outside or the inside wall, is pretty much going to spell the end of your day. So none of these drivers want to wreck out as early as lap 2, as McClure decides it's time to go. Robert Bauckham was reeling in these top 2, and McClure is going to slide on by for the race lead. That is a perfect pass. That's exactly what you want to do. If you're going to make the move into 1, you want to have that car cleared by the time you get to that little short stretch between turns 1 and 2, as now Robert Bauckham's going to go to work on Bob Dixon. And of course, with the low banking here at Indianapolis as well, these drivers are going to have to take into consideration tire conservation. You want to keep those tires good for the long run. Oh, Jessica Shelton might have had a little contact there with Bob Dixon going into 3. Great save as she was down on the apron. It was almost 3 wide between herself, Dixon, and Kuspa, and that almost had some perilous results, as now Shelton, losing that momentum, is going to be freight train. A lot of drivers moving around the outside. Shelton trying to find a spot in line there in front of Kerrigan. Looks like she will. The 75 to the outside there of Andre Carest. Shelton dropping all the way back to around the 13th, 14th position after that little bit of a scare over in turn 3. And I'm noticing this 143 of Dixon falling back. I'm wondering if he used up his stuff early. The one thing about this particular track, it's not as much about the tires wearing as it is about the tire temps. As I mentioned, Indianapolis doesn't have a whole lot of banking, so a lot of pressure is put on that right front tire, trying to allow the car to turn through the center of the corner and on exit. And if you get those tire temps way up there, a lot of these drivers probably up around 200 for that right front, it's going to make it difficult for you to turn the corner. The car is going to get tight, and it's going to put you at the mercy of other drivers that are able to make their way through the corners. Chuck McClure coming into this race. It's his first race of the season. And so in his first start, trying to see if he can take a W. Right behind him, Robert Bauckham is making his first start. So both of these drivers, they're just out there trying to get the win. Still early on in the season, but it is only a 15-race schedule as well. So I don't know if McClure and Bauckham, if they were able to run the remainder of the season, if they could make a challenge there for the championship, especially due to the fact, as we mentioned, only 8 drivers right now, 4 races in, are within 100 points of the points leader. Speaking of which, let's fall back and see if we can find where our points leader currently is at. Benoit Plord in the 87. It looks like we've got him right now listed back in the 21st spot. There he is. That is indeed where he is running, in that bright neon yellow and green 87 John Deere machine. And right now, it looks like he's just kind of in ride mode. We'll see if he's going to make any forward progress here. I mean, with the fact that we were able to avoid the caution just moments ago, the fuel window for these guys is about at the max 18 laps. And so, we're closing in already on potentially green flag pit stops for these drivers. And that's when the field is really going to get spread out, as Jeffrey Elliott trying to make a move there on Kerrigan. Just behind him is the 53 of Mike Brush. And Elliott was able to just barely fit his car in between the 15 and the 53, as he looked a little loose there off of turn 4. And of course, mentioned as well, realistic weather. So these drivers not only having to deal with the tightness they might be feeling with the car and the worn out right front tire with the low banking, but also the track conditions. I mean, the track is completely bathed in sunlight, so that means it's going to be slick for these drivers. And so like we saw Jeff Elliott have a near moment there off of turn 4, these drivers not only going to be fighting the tight in and through the center, but also possibly the loose off sensation. So talk about the worst of both worlds there in the course of a lap here at Indianapolis. And Indy is not one of the easiest tracks to come onto pit road and come off of pit road either. Very difficult. It's kind of almost like a super speedway, trying to get a car that's over 170 miles per hour down to 55 miles per hour at pit road speed. Plus the fact these drivers as well are going to have to merge out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. And it's kind of like a rounded, squared access road between round edge square access road out of turn 1 through turn 2 to get onto the back straightaway. And a lot of drivers can either gain or lose time in that little stretch of access road alone when there are green flag pit stops going on. Dixon's been able to slot himself into the 3rd position. Maybe he didn't want to be out in front. Maybe he wanted to stay here in the draft, because Chuck McClure being out in front, doesn't matter what physics you're running, Cup, GNS, or CTS, you're going to be using up the most fuel up there at a track like this. And so maybe that was Bob Dixon's plan, was get out there, lead a couple of laps, get that bonus point for a lap led, and then just slot back into a place where you're comfortable and where you can try and save just a little bit of fuel. Jeff Kuspa right now in that 4th position, being followed by the 13 of Dave Melson. Chris Elliott now into 6th, followed by Andre Majang. I believe at this point in time, the driver that has worked their way up to the front the quickest, as I'm looking right now, would actually be, I believe, the 29. No, I'm sorry, it actually would be the... Well, actually, just about everybody I'm actually looking here are around the same area of where they started. Not really a whole lot of drivers that have completely worked their way to the front. Even guys that started towards the rear of the field are still back there. As we got a double wide battle here between Mike Brush and Richard Martin. And why I have that reaction is on these older tires, it's kind of scary to watch these guys racing side by side, especially knowing that that car on the inside wants to push up. Look at them snaking down the front straightaway. Jeffrey Elliott trying to get a run on Jessica Shelton. That's a battle for 12th. And Brush looks back to the inside of Martin for 15th. Not going to be able to get it. But a lot of these guys that started near the rear of the field are still back here, and some of them appear to be struggling. Jim Glaude has lost the draft. Bob Seminara has as well. Stefan Martel's back here, and so too is Terry Bauman and Robbie Nisus. Bob LaChance right now, the last car on the lead lap, last car running right there in the 27th position. He's just coming off of turn 4 now. The leaders are heading into, I believe that's turn 3, so he's nearly a lap down already. We're about 7 laps away from when these drivers are going to have to start thinking about pit stops. And when they come to pit road, it is mandatory 4-tire pit stops. They can't roll the dice and go with a fuel only. They can't go with a 2-tire strategy. It has to be 4-tire pit stops. So right now, I mean, with the drivers that seem to be struggling right now that are running well in the point standings, I mean, Brian Wolf, 2nd in points, is back in 20th. Benoit Plord just actually passed him for a position. There they are back here actually battling. Benoit Plord's up to 19th. Terry Bauman is all the way back in 25th. So the driver right now that this is looking really good for is that 143 of Bob Dixon, 30 points back, 4th in the standings. So unless the 87 and the 29 and the 69 can make their way up here and have something to say about this race, this is very much looking like Bob Dixon's going to have a huge points day and be up there in the conversation for the points lead when we head into next week's race at Dover. Awesome racing going on up here just outside of the top 10. This is for 13th place. Jim Black, Richard Martin, Mike Brush. That's Tony Fox back there, as well as Orlando LeBoy. All waiting to see what happens as Jessica Shelton's been having to fight off Kerrigan in the 15 the last couple of laps, and now it's turned into about a 7-car pack from about the 11th spot on back to 17th, 18th place. And a possible move for position up ahead of them. That was Durest getting a big run onto the back of Jack Dussault. Not able to do anything with it, though. And we may have a battle for second place brewing. Chuck McClure has put some distance, if you can call about a car length and a half distance, between himself and Robert Baucom. Jeff Kutzpa has gotten up to the back bumper of the 018. And as soon as I say that, here comes Bob Dixon, here comes Dave Melson, here comes Chris Elliott. Seeing some blinking with the chat going on here, so I'm wondering if some of these drivers are thinking about possibly short pitting. As boy, there is a gap now from the top 7 all the way back here, actually the top 8, back to this battle for 9th place. As Jack Dussault got really wide going into turn 1. Andre Carrest going to get around him. I mean, these drivers right here, they're tracking about 2.5 seconds behind the lead group. And I know it's awfully early to say this, but these guys might already be in the territory of needing a caution flag to be able to catch back up. Either that or hope that a lot of those guys up there in that lead pack end up getting penalized with black flags or something when they have to make their pit stops, which are coming up very shortly. And I have done the calculations. I mean, if the furthest these drivers can go is 18 laps, these drivers should be able to make it on 3 pit stops. Ooh, Andre Marjan got a little tight there out of turn 1. May have gone up and brushed the wall. He's got Frank Rivard all over his back bumper. That's for 6th. And I mentioned the fact that Bob LaChance was way back and in danger of losing the lap. There he is in the same shot as the race leaders. Race leaders might be headed to pit road before they get around him, but I'm not sure. I almost wonder if maybe that 51's been into the wall. Hard to get a camera angle to see the right side of his machine, but remember, it's realistic damage, and he's actually bringing his car to pit road right now to get out of the way of the race leaders. Whoa, boy. I don't think he got that thing woed up in time at all. I thought it was actually 55 miles per hour. Looks like it's 65 for these drivers, and I don't think he got that thing slowed up to 65 in any way, shape, or form. So I think that's more than likely going to be a black flag for the 51. We'll update and see if he's actually going to be having to come back down pit road or not. And look at all these drivers fanning out right now. They're realizing pit stops are coming up. Oh, it looks like the 56 of Jeffrey Elliott has retired from the race. So he will finish in the 27th position if the 51 of LaChance gets back out there. Tough break for Jeffrey Elliott. Not sure what happened to him. Pit stop should be taking place right about now, within the next 2 laps. Let's see if anybody is coming in from the first or second groups. And doesn't look like it. Boy, what happened to Jack Dussault? You saw he was struggling, and a lot of drivers were getting around him, and all of a sudden he's faded back. I think a lot of these drivers that we're seeing falling back, well, the right side looks clean. I was going to say maybe got up into the wall, but he doesn't look like he's sustained any damage. Maybe he's just used up those tires. Now Robbie Nisus and Terry Bauman, they're all by themselves in 24th and 25th. They need a caution to come out. But we're coming around to the completion of lap 18, so who pits now? Who stretches in an extra lap? I don't know if some of these guys might be able to stretch it to 19 laps. We'll see. 17's awfully low on the track coming off the corner, but nope, he will stay out, as do the remainder of the top 7. Nobody back here in the second group coming to pit road either, as Shelton and Jeremy Jeffries in a battle. This is for a spot inside of the top 10. These top 7 really seem content to be able to run single file. Well, actually, it's 8 drivers now. but it's only 7 drivers, I do believe, up in this lead group. No, actually, no, it is 8 drivers up in this lead group. Frank Rivard in the 8th position. I thought he was 7th. And I think now we're going to see drivers in this lead group hitting pit road. We saw how the 51 came flying in, hot pitting. Let's see if any of these drivers try it. Oh, McClure on the brakes early. Bauckham trying to outbrake him. Frank Rivard. Ooh, gracious. Man, he came flying in. Look at that second group back there. Look at the smoke. Drivers hard on the brakes. Whoa, someone nearly got run over back there. Was that Brian Wolf that almost hit Jim Black? And it's such a narrow pit road because you've got that pit wall there separating pit lane from the racetrack. Plus, you've got that wall that juts out at the pit road entry on the left side. So it's so narrow for these guys. And a lot of them taking the risk of trying to go double wide, and a couple of them... Oh, we got a car blowing up! Dave Melson has blown up in the 13. He was running in second. We're still green. The game could throw a caution for debris, and it is. The caution has come out. The caution has come out for debris from the 13, who was running in the second position at the time. Melson did the best he could to get down onto the apron, onto the access road to avoid a yellow coming out, but unfortunately just couldn't do it in time. And this is going to change up a lot in terms of who's going to be where, because a lot of those drivers that decide to come to pit road, they're going to get to stay out. Drivers like Kutzpa and Chris Elliott that decided to stay out, they're going to be way back, because Indianapolis is one of those tracks you can come down, get a 4-tire pit stop, and still manage to stay on the lead lap. I mean, right now, we've got 23 drivers that are still scored on the lead lap. So an untimely caution for some of these drivers. And I'm hearing that some of these drivers that had stayed out that extra lap, they were planning to come around at full speed and pit the next time by. They're on fumes right now, clutching, hoping they can make it back to pit road. We'll go back real quickly here and just look at the replay of the engine failure that happened with the 13 of Dave Melson. I mean, what a tough break there for him. Was running up in the top 5 the entirety of the first run. And there just was no warning either. I don't know if this is a random blow-up or if this is due to the conditions of the racetrack. I mean, right now, it's clear 70. If we were up there around 90, 95 degrees, then I would think, okay, you know, more than likely that car is overheating. But I think we probably just have to chalk this up to potentially a random blow-up. And, man, a car that was running in the second position at the time, I mean, if we watch this here down the back straightaway, there's just no indication whatsoever that that car is going to go up in smoke. Jeff Kuspa up ahead of him. It's Chris Elliott behind him, and I'm going to watch and see if maybe it was an accidental downshift going here into the corner. Car's going to blow up right here. No, the car was still in 4th gear. I think that's just a random blow up. Don't know what kind of a grill tape these guys are running, if that maybe came into play or not, but I still don't see, even with clear 70, how that would be that much of an issue. And it looks like an engine piston is the reason for retirement for that 13 car. You know, if that is a random blow up, that's one thing. But if that is actually something attributed to either the setup these guys are running or the track conditions or something, that's got to be something now that's going to be in the back of the mind of every other driver in the field. Because that happened about 18, 19 laps into this run. And so all these other guys are going to have to think about that if that indeed was not a random blow up. Like the race lead is going to go to Robert Bauckham in the 18, who, remember, outbroke or tried to outbrake Chuck McClure coming to pit road. They both pitted from first and second on the same lap. And while Bauckham did not pass Chuck McClure before the commitment line on pit road, obviously his team got it done on pit road to be able to get him out ahead of the 17. And since he and a lot of the others here deciding to stay out since they had just made their pit stops, that's going to cycle him to the front. We're going to have to wait and see about drivers like Jeff Kutzpa and Chris Elliott. Jessica Shelton, Sean Kerrigan, and Mike Brush had also stayed out, and they had just pitted. We'll have to see where they're all going to restart. Got a number of drivers that are going to be taking the wave around here, like Bob Seminara, Stefan Martel, Terry Ballman are all going to be taking the wave around, so they'll get back onto the lead lap, I do believe. And as they cross the line, going to wait for the ticker to update itself, and it looks like Kutzpa's actually going to be in, surprisingly. No, I don't think it's updated. Nope, it's not updated. I was going to say, she was showing him in 6th. I didn't think that was at all possible for him to be in 6th position. He's going to be restarting back in the 14th position. So the timing of that caution caused a net loss of 14 spots for Jeff Kutzpa, who pitted from the lead. As a matter of fact, Chris Elliott got out ahead of him. So Elliott's going to be the highest up there of the drivers that pitted under this caution. So it changes up the entire running of the top 10 now. It's going to be Robert Bauckham, the race leader, when we go back green. Chuck McClure in 2nd. Bob Dixon 3rd. Andre Mahjong will now be 4th. Jeremy Jeffries will now be up to 5th, with Frank Rivard in 6th. Richard Martin 7th. Orlando Leboy in 8th. 9th, Andre Caress. And Jack Dussault now up there in 10th. And remember, we saw Jack Dussault really struggle as we got closer to the end of that long green flag run. And this is a fixed setup, so these drivers are going to have to adjust their racing style if they were struggling here on the long run, because there is every potentiality we could go into a long run again. I mean, this race was definitely under the potential of maybe going green the entirety of this 70 laps. Just a freak engine blow for Dave Melson was the reason that the caution came out here on lap 20. Lights should go out atop the pace car this time. Looks like Robbie Nices, Terry Ballman, Stefan Martel, Bob LaChance, and Bob Seminara. They're all going to go around taking the wave around. This will put Seminara and Martel back on the lead lap. It will put Terry Ballman, Robbie Nices, and Bob LaChance 1 lap down, as they apparently lost 2 laps to the leaders, and I would assume that was during their pit stops. If you are up towards the front, or at least in the lead pack, and come to pit road, you've got a good chance of being able to, keep yourself on the lead lap. But if you are way back behind the field, it is really difficult to be able to get yourself back up there onto the lead lap. Actually, I believe, as I'm looking at it right now, I think actually Terry Ballman and Robbie Nices are actually going to get back on the lead lap as well. They were actually scored a lap down prior because they had not come up around the leaders last time by, so scoring had not updated. So the only car that will actually be a lap down that is still running is the 51 of Bob LaChance. 2 drivers out of the race here, about 24 laps in. Dave Melson will finish 26th due to his engine problem, and Jeffrey Elliott, we already documented, parked his race car about 8 laps ago. He'll be finishing in the 27th position. Double file restarts here. We saw how drivers were pretty courteous in letting each other get in line, get into single file formation at the early start of this race. We'll see if they're going to be that generous now, as we are nearing, or we are at least a third of the way through this race. We're getting closer to halfway, which would be around lap 35. This also throws in the target laps of these drivers come to pit road, throws it off just a little. When we go back green, most of these drivers now will be having to come to pit road for their second round of pit stops, somewhere between laps 40 to 42. They will still have to make at least one more pit stop before the conclusion of the race, however. So at least 2 more trips to pit road for these drivers. We're yet to see our first caution for a crash, and hopefully we don't see one here, as they've been able to keep it pretty clean for this far. Robert Bauckham takes the outside line here on the restart, waiting on the flagman. Green flag is out. He's going to clear Chuck McClure for the top position already. Moves down to the inside line to block. Battle now is going to be side by side for second place. That's Andre Mahjong on the top side. Whoa, McClure! Got a little loose there going into that corner. Fresh tires might do that. And that little slip-up is going to drop him from second back to the 4th position. And now he's battling for that with, I believe that is the 75. It is. of Andre Carest, who was actually slowly and methodically on that last run, working his way up through the field. Maybe one of the fastest cars in the field here. Fastest lap of the race so far has actually been laid down by Chris Elliott in the 9, 49.777. And we'll wait to see here what these leaders on fresh tires are able to lay down at the line. And using Robert Bauckham as an example, a 53.435. That is about a little less than 4/10 off of the fastest lap that Chris Elliott laid down. So Chris Elliott must have gotten quite a tow, quite a bit of draft there when he laid down the lap that he did. Side by side for fourth, Chuck McClure, who led the early portions of this race, now trying to fight his way back up to the front after his slip up on the restart. Couldn't get by Frank Rivard. Now Jeremy Jeffries to the inside of Andre Carest. That will move the 8 up into the top 5 for the first time today. Another driver has brought it down pit road, made the hard left-hand turn to the garage area. Jim Black in the 86 has retired out of this event, and he will finish in the 25th position. Jim Black came into this race 13th in the point standings, 124 points out. It'll also be interesting to see here now with the fact all these drivers were able to get themselves bunched back up with this restart. If some of our top guns in the point standings will be able to start making some forward progress now, namely Benoit Plord, two-time winner, Brian Wolf, and Terry Baumann, our 3 former winners from this season. Right now, the highest of those, you got to go back outside of the top 10, but higher than he was, 14th place is where the points leader is currently running. Brian Wolf is currently in the 9th position. There he is, trying to reel in Benoit Plord for the points lead. 18 points between those two. Terry Baumann, who we saw just get back in the lead lap, has now been able to work his way up into the 19th position. He's at least back on the lead lap. We'll see now if the 69 can start making forward progress as we got a car up into the wall there. That's Frank Rivard in the 35. Don't know if he just got up into the wall and it wouldn't release him and he was losing all that momentum, but everybody able to get around him. That's a close call there. That's a tough corner to pass a race car in the center of 1 and 2, but it looks like everybody was able to maneuver around him safely. And Frank Rivard was running last time by in the 3rd position, so what a tough break there for him. Another car coming to pit road. I believe, is that the 54 of Robbie Nisus, I do believe? Yes, it was. And here comes Frank Rivard in as well. So Bauckham showing the way there. Robbie Nisus was 9th in points coming to this one, 107 points out of the points lead. And another driver out of the race. I didn't see the 57 of Stefan Martel coming to pit road, but he has now pulled his car back behind the wall. It looks like he will finish in 24th if Robbie Nisus is able to go back out there and complete a lap. Stefan Martel, 10th in points coming into this race. A lot of drivers who have been in, if not all, at least one of the previous 4 races this season, retiring out of the race. Looks like Robbie Nisus is going to get back out there, so he'll at least pick up 1 position, as he is now 2 laps down to race leader Robert Bauckham. And I'm really trying to figure out here, too, why these drivers are retiring out of the race. I mean, for Frank Rivard, he was up there into the wall, but what about guys like Stefan Martel, Jim Black? I mean, did they just retire out of the race because they're feeling that maybe they're in the way of other drivers? Did they get damage that we didn't see, and it's just hindering them the rest of this run? I don't know. Not sure why we're having so many drivers seeming to retire out of the race of their own volition. Not due to being involved in a wreck, because the only caution we've had so far was really a fluke caution coming out for debris when Dave Melson's engine let go over in turn 3. And now we've got a race up here at the front. Robert Bauckham had about a car length distance between himself and Andre Monjong, but Monjong has closed that up, and Chuck McClure now up into 3rd place after Frank Rivard's issues. He was all over the back bumper of the 27. Those top three were all nose to tail heading down into turn 3 last time by. You now add in Andre Carest and Jeremy Jeffries as here comes McClure, ducking to the inside of Mahjong. Mahjong not able to be able to throw a block on a move made that late. And McClure tries to clear. Mahjong tries to give him room and almost got up into the wall for his troubles. And McClure will clear for the spot. But look at just the gap that Robert Bauckham was able to get on these two, just based on the fact those two were side by side. The one problem with Indianapolis is most of the passes really need to take place on the straightaway. I mean, right there, you saw how quickly Jeremy Jeffries made the move on Carest to be able to move into that fourth position. That's where you need to do it to keep your momentum up. Because neither driver, when they're side by side through these corners, is running the line they want to run. If you're on that inside line, you're fighting the push up into another car. If you're on that outside line, you're fighting the push up into the wall. And it slows down your speed so much as opposed to Robert Baukham's position where he's able to just run whatever line he wants to going into the corner. But the pressure is back on now. Chuck McClure, who Bauckham had start on the inside line for that restart. McClure is back. He is there on the bumper and looking to take the race lead back once again. About 10 laps away from when these drivers are going to have to start thinking about pit road again. And I don't think that anybody got a penalty coming to pit lane. The driver's able to really nail down hot pitting and being able to average out the speed to not get a penalty of having to come back down and serve a black flag. And tremendous credit to all of them. A couple of them, obviously, though, did not get the opportunity to be able to make a green flag pit stop, as drivers like Chris Elliott and Jessica Shelton and Jeff Kutzpa, they were all still out there on the racetrack when that caution came out. So they still have to experience what a green flag pit stop here under race conditions is at Indianapolis. It looked like maybe Jeremy Jeffries could have scraped the wall just the least little bit there, exiting out of turn 3. But he's going to keep it together, at least for the moment. What about that 11 of Jeff Kutzpa? Where did he go? He's now all the way back in 13th place. I think he restarted in 14th, and a number of drivers that he restarted around have actually made forward progress. Jessica Shelton's already up here in 10th. Chris Elliott's already up here in 9th. So I'm not sure what happened to the 11 there on that restart, but he's not with this lead pack anymore. You've only got 11 cars up in this lead group right now. Jim Glaude, the last of those in the 72. So I believe that's Robbie Nice, is the 54, literally up scraping the wall on the back straightaway to get out of the way of these race leaders. How about Orlando Leboy? We've done a number of RTG broadcasts and still new names and new faces popping up here in some of these series. Never seen Orlando Leboy racing here in RTG, and he's putting on a great performance in that 42 right now in the 7th position. And sometimes it's those ones that we don't know about you kind of have to watch out for, as battle will be on for the 5th spot. Bob Dixon, the pole sitter, looking to the inside of Andre Lecrest, not able to get the spot there, as Charest is going to hold him off down the back straightaway. And it gets so difficult on the worn tires to be able to make those kind of moves because you're not sure if you have the confidence that your car is not going to push up in the corner when you're to the inside of somebody going into these turns. As Jeffries is starting to march his way to the front. Saw him get around Andre Carest for 4th. He's now gotten around Andre Mahjong for the 3rd position. And now he is looking on the back bumper of Chuck McClure and Robert Bauckham for 1st and 2nd. Jeremy Jeffries is actually making his first start of the season here in the RTG Aero 88 series. Trying to get a W. As a matter of fact, the top 3 at least. No, the top 4. Yeah, top 4. All making their first starts of the season. In Bauckham, McClure, Jeffries, and Mahjong. The highest running driver that has made a start previously this season is the 5th place running Andre Charest, who is right now 5th in the points coming into this race. Something these drivers are going to be thinking about now is possibly coming to pit road maybe a little bit sooner than what we projected. I said about 40 to 42 is when they might think about coming to pit road. That's if they want to stretch it. But there is the possibility that some of these drivers could come to pit road now and then come to pit road again and still be able to make it. Went back green, I think it was on lap 24, which was about 36 laps to go. No, I'm sorry, 46 laps to go. Means these drivers can kind of play with 10 laps there of either pitting maybe 5 laps earlier than they normally would. We'll see if anyone might do that strategy. I mean, like a super speedway, you want to come with a group, because if you're all by yourself, as we saw with a bunch of the stragglers early on, you're not going to be up here in the lead pack battling for the win. At the same time, there might be an advantage to getting fresh tires, as looks like the 51 of Bob LaChance was just on pit road. And all of a sudden, we've got some drivers that have lost this lead group to Brian Wolf, Chris Elliott, Jessica Shelton. They were up there. And all of a sudden, they've lost touch with that lead pack, along with the 72 of Jim Glaude. I would love to know the strategy of what's going on back there with some of these guys. What happened with the 15, actually? There's Kerrigan. Kerrigan was in 12th last time by. He's now fallen back to 16th. I don't know if he maybe got into the wall and a number of drivers got around him, but issues nonetheless for the Skull Machine, as here comes Jim Glaude to pit road in the 72. That's from the 11th position. This is a little bit earlier than projected, but he should be able to make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop. And he was running by himself already, so there's not much to lose for him. He was either going to fall back into that second group or was going to be riding by himself regardless. So I don't really fault this strategy. Maybe trying to see what he can do on fresh tires, see if he can get himself back up there into this lead pack. Now, there are drivers that came to pit road under the caution that didn't stay out that should be able to stretch it a little bit further, like the 11 of Kutzpa, the 94 of Shelton, the 9 of Chris Elliott. We'll see if they decide to stay out a little bit longer. Let's look at this. Bump drafting down the front straightaway. Jeffrey Elliott gave a shot to Chuck McClure and pushed him right back up to the bumper of Robert Bauckham. And don't forget, too, like I said, I think it was a fluke engine problem, but it was around this time on a long green flag run that we saw the engine let go on Dave Melson's machine. So these drivers might want to be keeping an eye on their water temps. We're now in the window. Some of these drivers should be pitting this time around, I should think. As Jeffrey is again awfully wide there, out of turn 3, almost brushing the wall, and none of our front runners, at least up here in this lead pack, are coming to pit road. Field is spread out quite a bit now. Got maybe 3 drivers up here in this lead group, then a little bit of distance back to Mahjong, another 6 car lengths, 5 or 6 car lengths back to Charest, then another 4 back to Bob Dixon. LeBoy back here, about 7, 8 car lengths back. All of a sudden, what was about an 11-car pack has turned into a single-file train that really only has about 4 cars up in its lead draft, as Robert Bauckham about to catch the slower car of Jim Glaude. Well, actually, not slower car. Glaude was actually just on pit road. And we will see if he's going to be able to get out of the way here. Maybe with the fresher tires, since he's just been on pit road, he can maybe hold these guys off and lead them around. Not going to matter. They're coming to pit road. Robert Bauckham is in. Chuck McClure. Oh, this pit road is so sketch on entry. Everyone's going to make it, it looks like. It looks like a few drivers are staying out. Jessica Shelton and Jeff Kutzpa. I fully expected that these drivers were going to be able to make it a little bit further. And Shelton's going to be the race leader now, getting a lap led in that Coors Light Ford Thunderbird. Kutzpa into second. Third place is Benoit Plord. I wonder if he might try and stay out a little bit longer as well to get a lap-led bonus point, since the drivers he's battling with, Brian Wolf, Terry Baughman, they haven't led a lap yet. Bob Dixon's the only driver up inside of the top 5 in points that's led a lap so far here this evening. Terry Baughman coming off of pit road there in the 69. Brian Wolf made a pit stop. Jeremy Jeffries, Orlando LeBoy, they were on pit road the last lap around. And Shelton continues to stay out. Look at here, though, how Jeff Kutzpa, Benoit Plord, Richard Martin, they've been able to reel in that 94 because she was all by herself. Mike Brush going to come to pit road from the 6th position. The regularly scheduled pit stop for the 51. Or, sorry, the 53, rather. Oh, we got another car blowing up. I see smoke. It's Frank Rivard in the 35. No caution this time as he was able to get it off the racing surface. So something's going on here. I don't know what it is. An engine header for the 35 has taken him out of this race. And it's around the same time on a long green flag run that we saw the 13 car blow up. As looks like Shelton maybe indicating out the window she's coming to pit road this time. Jeff Kutzpa is going to come to pit road as well. He swung around the outside of Shelton to take the spot. Benoit Plord and Sean Kerrigan are in as well. And this should cycle the lead now to the 43 of Richard Martin, I do believe, who's going to be one of the last drivers that we're waiting for to come onto pit road. I believe the 33 of Tony Fox has also stayed out. Nope, as soon as I say that, he is now on pit road. He was up in the 7th position, trying to stretch it here on fuel. This is the battle potentially for the race lead when the 43 eventually does hit pit road, which I think more than likely will be this time around. There's Richard Martin. Let's see if that 43 STP Gene is going to head pit road. Yes, he is. Wow, hard on the brakes there. It's interesting, too, because you're seeing that smoke, that's actually coming from the rear tires rather than from the front. So there's not a whole lot of brake lockup for these drivers in the front brake bias. It's more in the rear of the race car. That's why you see the car kind of jump up into the air there, with the rear tires gripping the track and then shooting the back end back up into the air as the release off the brake pedal takes place. This is going to be the battle for the lead here now, as Robert Bauckham will cycle back to the point. He is actually going to be the leader scored here as well, as apparently Richard Martin's pit stall was before the start-finish line, so he did not get credit for leading that lap. So Bauckham to the lead. McClure in second, Jeffries in third, and Mahjong in fourth. And then the question is, where is the rest of the field? Because it looks like these guys have the back straightaway all to themselves. That's practically the case. Bob Dixon, the pole sitter's back here. He's in fifth. Sixth is going to be Andre Carest. Seventh is Orlando Leboy. Eighth, Jim Gloud. Ninth, Chris Elliott. And right now, completing your top 10 is going to be Brian Wolf. And we're going to have to see where Brian Wolf cycles out in relation to the driver he's battling, or the drivers he's battling for the points lead. Benoit Plord in the 87 and Terry Baumann in the 69. I believe the 69 of Baumann is actually a lap down even after the cycle of pit stops, as I saw him actually get into the wall even as a lap machine. No, he is on the lead lap actually. Terry Baumann is on the lead lap in the 18th position. And these drivers now know they're going to have to come to pit road at least one more time. These drivers, for the most part, all came to pit road somewhere between 23 to 27 laps to go. They've got about 18, 19 laps they can make it on fuel. So now the question is, do you come to pit road when the fuel window is open, or do you stretch it as far as you can just in case there is a caution and come to pit road at the last possible moment? Because this track is over 2 miles in length, it is considered a super speedway. And to be fair, we have seen quite a bit of super speedway aspects in tonight's race, with the drafting, the fuel mileage, coming to pit road with a pack, the ability to be able to hot pit. But the question I have here is, you've got only 4 drivers up here in this lead group. Is there some diplomacy going on between some of the spotters and crew chiefs of drivers of this team of, maybe if you're the 17 of McClure, the 8 of Jeffries, let's try coming to pit road when the 18 isn't expecting it, throw him off guard, and then the 2 of us can draft together. He'll have no drafting help, and we can maybe run away with this thing and settle it out at the end. Don't know if there's anything like that going on, but it's certainly going to make things interesting here as it's really just a four-horse race. Andre Mahjong is trying to keep up with these guys, but one thing I'm noticing that they're doing as well, the 17 gets right up to the bumper of the 18, the 8 gets right up to the bumper of the 17. They are creating a very tight draft down these straightaways, and it's actually allowing them to pull away from Andre Mahjong. You can even see right there visibly how they are gapping the 27. What was about 2 car lengths is now expanded out to about 3.5, nearly 4 car lengths from the back bumper of Jeffries to the front bumper of Mahjong's 27 car. Then you've got a second group back here being led by Bob Dixon. Looking in terms of lap times, though, it's looking like that front pack is much faster than the second pack. Dixon ran a 50.8 last time by, almost a 50 flat for Robert Bauckham last time by, and now it's a battle for position here. As I think these drivers are realizing, unless a caution comes out, we don't have a ghost of a shot of getting up to that lead group. Let's figure out and settle amongst ourselves who's going to finish 5th place in this race. Got Dixon, Terrest, LeBoy, Gloud, and Elliott up here in this group. That is 5th on back through 9th. Brian Wolf right now in that 10th position, running by himself, but about to get caught by a group of cars, led by Jeff Kutzpa, Jessica Shelton, Mike Bush, Benoit Plord, Bob Seminara's in this group as well. I was wondering when we were going to hear from the 712 machine. Also Sean Kerrigan, that's back to 16th place, as they're going to get around the 29 of Brian Wolf. And this is actually important because Brian Wolf was running quite a number of positions ahead of Benoit Plord, was going to cut into his points lead. All of a sudden, there's the 87 and the 29 in the same vicinity on the racetrack. So the 29 of Brian Wolf, this is not what he wanted to see, because he's either going to gain very little or none on Benoit Plord if things remain the way they are right now. Ooh boy, that was a little scary, seeing Mike Brush down there with 2 tires on the rumble strip. No grip down there whatsoever. Richard Martin, who played the strategy of staying out, that obviously cost him as he was out there first off by himself on old tires, and secondly now comes out without anybody to be able to draft with. Saw him brush the wall there on the front, on the back straightaway. Kind of odd to see a driver brush the wall on a straightaway. Bob LaChance right now is running off the lead lap in 21st. There is Terry Ballman. He is in 18th place. Certainly not the run that he was looking for. 19th, Jack DeSalt. And Tony Fox is right now the last car on the lead lap in the 20th position. And both DeSalt and Fox are in danger of maybe going down a lap here, as they're about a little less than half a straightaway ahead of your top 4. Run down the rest of the running order right now. Looks like Bob LaChance, we already mentioned, is a lap down in 21st. Robbie Nisus is 4 laps down. He is in the 22nd position. And out of the race, 2 drivers out of the race due to mechanical problems. 3 drivers out of the race due to, I'm assuming, either possible crash damage there under these green flag runs, or just bringing their cars back behind the wall, maybe just due to the fact that they're not able to handle them out there or something. But Frank Rivard will finish in 23rd, Stefan Martel 24th, Jim Black 25th, Dave Melson 26th, and Jeffrey Elliott in 27th. Rivard and Melson were the 2 that suffered engine failure woes. And both of them around the same time of a long green flag run, about 18 laps into a long green flag run. Melson's was first and Rivard's was second. And with that being said, I mean, is there going to be a third? These drivers are going to be pitting pretty soon, and it'll be another 18-lap run. I mean, is there going to maybe be a third engine failure? Is that the trend that's being set here? I don't know. As Tony Fox is going to move up and out of the way, so he will go a lap down to the leaders. And Jack Dussault about to be the next one. If drivers were to come to pit road now, they would be good to make it the rest of the way on fuel. Question is, who is willing to risk that? Whoa, Chuck McClure. I don't know if it was the lap machine that he got the draft off that got him really tight, but his entry into turn 3 was really high. Jeremy Jeffries, I think, cut him some slack. He could have easily stuck his nose to the left rear quarter panel of the 17 in a battle for second. but instead decided to ride in line, as it looks like we've got some drivers that are coming to pit road. Richard Martin, I believe in the 43, was one of those. So he should be good to make it the rest of the way. You could tell, I think he would be hoping for a caution. Well, actually, I'm not really sure a caution would help him. He did go a lap down. I was going to say, if a caution were to come out and all these drivers had to pit, then Martin could stay out and inherit the lead. But now it's the case of if the caution come out, he would be trying to battle for a lucky dog position. That's the big risk here for some of these guys. I mean, if you're someone back there, maybe like that 27 of Andre Mahjong, do you maybe roll the dice? Come to pit road now. Keep yourself on the lead lap, and if a caution comes out, you could be cycled up to the front of the field. Right now, his problem is that he is the last car in this lead pack. There's nobody behind him to help push him. Not going to be able to get a run on those top three. So right now, he's just at the mercy of hoping that he's going to stay in their draft. As you saw, the 72, he was on pit road of Jim Glaude. Regularly scheduled stop for him. Brian Wolf in the 29. From the drivers battling for the points lead. Also electing to come to pit road now. So some drivers with the short pit strategy, we'll see if it works out for them. Not saying it's going to be a race-winning strategy for them, although stranger things have happened. But there is the possibility that it's going to gain them a couple more positions than where they were running on track. And obviously, every position is a point, or multiple points in this case. So why not? Why not roll the dice if it's going to gain you some positions? There you saw, I think that was Bob Dixon, our pole sitter, was just on pit road. And I'm being told a lot of these drivers are going with the two-tire strategy, or at least a lot of these drivers are thinking about it. We will see if that is going to pan out in the long run. I mean, if that is an option, what are these front four going to do? Are they going to go with two tires? Does somebody roll the dice and go with two tires when everybody else goes with four? You obviously have to have a drafting partner. We've seen the 18, the 17, and the 8 all working together very well here on this run. I mean, are they being nice for the moment, and then it's all bets are off when we get to 10 laps to go? We'll have to wait and see. Let's also bear in mind as well that we ran about 3 laps under caution. The only caution that we had back on lap 23 when Dave Melson had his engine failure. There is the possibility this race could end up ending under yellow if we get a late race caution. And if we get a caution with 3 or less to go, this race would end under yellow. So these drivers have to think about that as well. But the checkered flag may not necessarily be the checkered flag. It may be about 2.5, 3 laps sooner than that. They'll have to take that into consideration with the strategy of when they decide to come to pit road as well. I think these drivers, the furthest they will be able to go is about lap 62, 63 here on this tank of fuel. Some might be able to stretch it to 64 or 5. But I don't think anybody can go any further than that. So some of these drivers are looking at making their final pit stop somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 7 laps to go. And there's just no way. There's no possible way that they're going to be able to save that here on the racetrack either. I mean, I'm looking at the pace that these guys are running right now. Before, we were talking about them running about 172, 173 through the corner. They've backed the pace down to about 167 to 169. But that's certainly not enough of a drop in speed to have them saving fuel. As they're about to catch, I believe that's the 36 again of Jack Dussault, who was already a lap down. Like they're going to put him another lap down here. Currently, we've got only 11 cars on the lead lap. Everybody else looks like have been to pit road. Tony Fox, Chris Elliott, Bob Dixon, Jim Glaude, Richard Martin, Brian Wolf, Mike Brush, Terry Ballman. They have all made pit stops here and are all running -1 to the race leaders. Last thing they want to see right now is a caution flag, because if a caution flag comes out, then I believe that Fox and Elliott would get the free pass. Everybody else would have to rely on the wave around, and they wouldn't be able to come down and get any fresh rubber. They'd be stuck out there. Some of these guys have been out there since making their pit stop about 6, 7 laps, and that is a huge difference between 7-lap old tires and fresh tires, especially at a track that is so much of a tire shredder with the low banking as Indianapolis. And here we go. Race leaders are in. Bauckham, McClure, Jeffries, and Mahjong. This is the money stop. This is the make it or break it pit stop that's going to end up winning or losing you this race. I thought Tony Fox has actually made a pit stop. He's now making his final pit stop of the day. Just saw him in the background there. This turns the race lead over, I do believe. Well, we'll have to see. Does this turn the race lead over to the 75? It does. Andre Charest has actually stayed out, so he's going to inherit the race lead here. He will probably be on pit road somewhere in the next 3 laps. And is it 2 tires or is it 4? It's 4 at least for Bauckham and McClure. Here comes Jeffries down pit road. He's got a lot of momentum there, but I don't think he's going to beat these 2 out. All 4 are going to come out nose to tail, so it's really going to be these 4 still, unless something crazy happens here in the final 10 laps. Find out about that 75. There he is. Andre Charest inheriting the race lead now, and he will dive to pit road. 42 of Orlando LeBoy also on pit lane. Race lead, I believe, is going to be turned over. I was going to say to Jeff Kutzpa, but he's now on pit road, so now Jessica Shelton in the 94 is going to be the race leader. And remember, we mentioned the fact that Benoit Plord hasn't led a lap today. Still hasn't. He's in that second position. Bob Seminara and Sean Kerrigan. That's your top 4 right there in your shot. These drivers can stretch it a little bit further. I think they will probably be on pit road somewhere in the next 1 to 2 laps. I think they may stay out an extra lap here and then pit the next time around. We'll wait and see. But it's going to be a 4-horse race for this win. And to be honest, I think it's going to be a 3-horse race between Bauckham, McClure, and Jeffries. I'm not taking anything away from Andre Mahjong. He has been up here in this lead pack all day long. The problem is he has no drafting help behind him. So he can't possibly be able to get enough momentum to be able to get a run. And there you see the strategy called by Benoit Plord. He knows he's not going to win this race, but he's trying to pick up every point possible to open up the gap between himself, Brian Wolf, and Terry Ballman. So with that lap led, that is a bonus point for the 87. And he will probably be giving up the race lead to come to pit road this next time around. So we cycle around here. This is going to be your battle for the win, as we will be hitting the line for 8 laps to go next time by. Robert Bauckham has led this race since the first and only caution, when he inherited the race lead after beating Chuck McClure off pit road during the first cycle of green flag pit stops. McClure had led most of the laps up to that point. And these 2 have not been outside of the top 2 all race long. Jeremy Jeffries has been one of the chargers through the field, worked his way up to that 3rd position. Jeffries started this race all the way back from the 28th position, let's not forget, dead last in the field. And Andre Mahjong has also been up here inside of the top 10 all day long after starting 9th. He has been 4th pretty much the entirety of the second half of this race. So when is it go time? When do you make your move if you're Chuck McClure? He's been able to get some good runs onto the back bumper of Robert Bauckham. Jeffries has been able to push him up there as well. So how long do you wait? Bear in mind, again, as I said, that all 3 of these drivers have not made a single start this season in the RTG Aero 88 series. So they're out here just trying to get that W. The points are great, but they don't have any points to build off of from the previous 4 weeks. So how aggressive will they be for this race win? Andre Mahjong again starting to lose this top 3. That might be him exiting out of the picture with a chance of kissing the yard of bricks. 5th place right now looks like going to be Chris Elliott, followed by pole sitter Bob Dixon in 6th. LeBoy will be in 7th. 8th place is Andre Charest, and right now a battle, well, I thought it was for top 10. It's not. Actually, Jessica Shelton is going to cross the line, it looks like in the 9th position, getting by the lap machine of Tony Fox, and right now 10th is under contest. That's Jeff Kutzpa, as well as Jim Glaude, Sean Kerrigan, Bob Seminara's in this group. Jessica Shelton might be in danger of dropping outside the top 10 if that group of 4 are able to reel her in because they've got some pretty good speed right now. I'm going to wager Shelton maybe went with a two-tire pit stop. That's why she's ahead of some of those drivers, because she pitted either after or around them, and she was able to open up that distance, open to hold on there for these final 5.5 laps. As it will be 5 laps to go. This next time by for Robert Baucom. Like Andre Mahjong still has a whiff of the draft, but not much. And certainly not enough, I don't think, to be able to get a run. Boy, Chuck McClure is so good there in turn 3. Tries to follow it up here off of 4. Look at him bringing his car a little bit lower on the groove there off of turn 4, trying to get the clean air to the nose. Allowing the car to turn off the corner, trying not to get that Aero push tight sensation off of the corner. Looked like he was peaking there on the front straightaway that last time by. Maybe having Robert Baucom think about it. If Baucom spends more time looking in his rearview mirror, waiting to see if Chuck McClure is going to make a move, it may mess up his entry into the corner. Was there smoke right there on the back straightaway? Hard to tell. Looked like there could have been some smoke lingering just there in the middle of the backstretch. Not seeing any drivers off the pace or in trouble here. Well, I'm not sure if I was just seeing things. I'll wait and see about the next time by, if maybe it was just something with the graphics on my end, but it looked like there was a little bit of smoke lingering there. Maybe somebody brushing the wall on the back straightaway. Jessica Shelton has been reeled in. That two-tire strategy did not work for her. Jeff Quitzpa just got around her, moving him into 9th. Shelton now back to 10th, and there's going to be more fresh tires behind her in Jim Glaude and Sean Kerrigan. But again, Jessica Shelton, much like our top 3, not out here racing for points at the moment, as she's only making her first start of the season. So, go for the strategy that's going to maybe try and gain you positions. If it doesn't work, well, then you know better for next time. And I think this next time around we hit the line, this is the proverbial point of no return, where if a caution were to come out, the race would be over. So I think this is go time now for Chuck McClure and Jeremy Jeffries. They're going to have to start formulating the moves they want to make for this race lead. And they do have the slower machine up ahead of Bob LaChance, the lapper, that maybe they could try to use as a pick. Oh, what's the 51 doing? Oh, he's running down the inside right in front of the leaders. Is he going to get out of their way? He is. Thought he probably was going to get up to the outside line going into turn 1, but he waited until turn 2 to do it. That slowed up all 3 of these drivers. McClure is back on the bumper of Baucom, though. Look at Baucom, moving low, moving high, trying to make his car as wide as possible and take away any chance of Chuck McClure getting to either the inside or the outside. I think if you go to the outside for Chuck McClure, you're basically giving this win away. He's going to have to make that move on the inside line. He's got to stick the 18 up on the top side here at some point. The pretty wide back straightaway. Baucom can't possibly block all the lanes, I don't think. It's all going to depend on the run that Chuck McClure can get. 2 laps to go here at Indianapolis. One of these 3 drivers is going to kiss the yard of bricks. Jeremy Jeffries back there in 3rd. If the top 2 wreck, he could end up finding himself doing the last to first challenge, starting 28th and winning this race. McClure is so good in turn 3, but he and Baucom seem to be even off of turn 2, and that's where Chuck McClure needs to be a little bit better to be able to get the run down the back straightaway. Trying to make the move here, going into 3, but not enough momentum, not even close to getting to the left rear quarter panel. Gonna have a couple more shots here. Maybe on the front straightaway out of turn 4, he can make the move. We'll see. The white flag will be displayed this time. So far, no caution. Hopefully we'll get down to the line here, and the flagman will have that white flag in his hands. He does indeed. We're racing back to the checkers. McClure, he can load. Jeffries was going to go with him, but not enough momentum for McClure. It's turn 2 right here. Turn 2 is the deciding area. Look at McClure backing his car up just a little bit here. Trying to see if he can get the draft, get the run through the center out of turn 2. Looking to get a big run down the back straightaway. Baucom's going to be looking at it for 3 and 4, which has been his bread and butter, where he's been a little bit better than Baucom. Baucom slides up just a little bit. He opened it. Not close enough. He's about half a car length back. This is right there with him. McClure's going to drive it in deep. Trying to get the run off the corner, but the car pushes up. Robert Balkum is going to hold them off as it's going to be McClure taking one last shot down the straightaway, but not enough momentum. Robert Balkum, by a little more than half a car length, is going to take the checkered flag here at Indianapolis as they crash just in front of them, crossing the start-finish line. That was Jim Glaude in the 72 and I think the 36 of Jack Dassault. The leaders nearly got caught up in that. Yeah, the caution flag is out. I think it came out either just before or just after the leaders crossed the start-finish line. But Robert Balkum picks up the victory here in his first start of the season for the RTG Aero 88 series. Congratulatory bumps there from Chuck McClure and Jeremy Jeffries, who tried everything they could to get around that 18 machine, but here at Indianapolis, especially with those worn tires, track position and clean air is king. And Chuck McClure, boy, he was just so close there. Had great runs out of turn 4, but just couldn't seem to do anything with them. Standings, I do believe, are official. I think everybody has crossed the start-finish line now. And if we're looking in terms of our points battle, the big winner out of all this one is going to be that 143 of Bob Dixon. Started on the pole, got a couple of laps led, going to finish in 6th. He was 30 points out of the points lead. The rest of his competition didn't finish inside of the top 10. Benoit Plourde, the points leader, was 12th. Brian Wolf, one position right behind him in 13th. And Terry Bauman finished a lap down in 17th place. So Bob Dixon very well could be up there, if not leading the points, right there in the same zip code as whoever the points leader is going to be heading into Dover next week, as Robert Balkum burns it down here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's going to get to kiss the yard of bricks here this evening at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Look at the rest of the top 10 finishers here. Andre Mahjong, a great run there in 4th. Chris Elliott played a lot of strategy. That the timing of that only caution we had really worked into his favor. He stayed up in the top 10 most of the day and was able to get a top 5 finish. We already talked about Dixon there in 6th. How about Orlando LeBoy? Good run for that 42. First time that we've seen his name on an RTG broadcast here on FRN. Jeff Kutzbach brings it home in 8th. Andre Charest was 9th. And Jessica Shelton, the two-tire strategy, hung on to get her a top 10 finish. Bob Seminara, Benoit Plourde, Brian Wolf, Mike Brush, all finished on the lead lap. Sean Kerrigan finished out of the race in 15th. I don't know if he finished on the lead lap or a lap down, but the drivers behind him did finish -1. Jim Glaude in 16th, Terry Bauman 17th, Jack Dassault 18th, Tony Fox in 19th. 2 laps down was Bob LaChance. Looks like Richard Martin called it a day not too long before that checkered flag came out. He'll finish 21st. Robbie Nices was 9 laps down in 22nd. And you see the drivers that also finished out of the race. 2 of them due to mechanical problems, Frank Rivard and Dave Melson, finishing 23rd and 26th. Stefan Martel, Jim Black, and Jeffrey Elliott also did not make it to the conclusion of this race. Well, let's find out what our top 3 finishers thought here of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. From up here, it looked like it was a bit of a struggle, especially on those old tires. And let's get our 3rd place finisher, Jeremy Jeffries. Hey, Jeremy, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
I do.
Well, I mean, first off, I got to ask you, I mean, you started this race all the way back from the 28th position, and then we see you there in the second half of this race up to 3rd place. You were certainly someone that knew where to put your car, be able to manipulate the draft to make passes, but just how difficult was it based on how narrow the corners are here at Indianapolis?
First off, I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting this race, and RTG for putting this on, and this Terry for doing this great Aero 88 series. It was a blast in this track. I think Terry also did this track for RTG. But yeah, he did such a good job on the setup that you could run too wide. There was an outside groove and inside groove. So if you could get the right run, the right draft, it wasn't too difficult to pass until everybody got single file.
Now, we know that Indianapolis, because of the low banking in the corners, it's a killer, especially on that right front tire. How much of a difference was there between the way the car felt on the fresh tires and longer into that run? Because we went about 2 full fuel runs.
Oh, there was a huge difference. I made a comment after I came out of the pits on the last lap that I forgot how to drive because it turned so good. And then I think Robert and Chuck right in front of me went down and hit the apron because they had the same issue. It was, you get so used to having to turn so much because it's tight. My right front was going yellow before the run was up each time we pitted. And then you get back out there on fresh tires and you're like, wow, this drive's amazing.
I mean, you were right up there in the vicinity for this win there in 10 laps to go, 5 laps to go, right down to the white flag lap. You were kind of in the tough situation. If you made a move, there really wasn't anybody behind you to be able to push you forward. Did you have any kind of a strategy to be able to try and pass the top two, or was it maybe trying to push one of them to the win?
Where I was at with nobody behind me, it was pretty much if Chuck got a run, I was going to help him. But there was just, I couldn't pull up. I couldn't get the run that I needed to really help him out there.
Well, Jeremy, obviously a tremendous job of working your way from the back to the front, finishing in the third position here tonight. Congrats on a great performance, and we're going to turn the microphone over and let you do some shout-outs now.
I think I kind of already did that, but thanks again for Flatout for doing this broadcast, and just RTG as a whole. This league is amazing and put on some great races. I was so happy to see green flag pit stops, and it's a pleasure to be here and race with these guys.
Well, that's Jeremy Jeffries. He finishes third place here tonight at the Brickyard. Congrats on a great run, and good luck next week at Dover.
Thank you.
And let's get our second place finisher, Chuck McClure. Hey, Chuck, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
Hi, Seth.
Well, man, I mean, you had a rocket ship there at the beginning of this race. You led the first 16 laps there, and then you lost the lead there on pit stops, but you were right on the back bumper of that 18 car the entirety of that second half of the race. We saw you being able to get some runs on him, but what little bit extra did you need to be able to get to the inside of his left rear quarter panel to take this win?
He didn't leave me any air, and our tires are old. I tried. There's just nothing I could do with him. I tried for the last 5 laps, and it's just either didn't have the push at the right time or the grip. So, I mean, he's great. So to finish second behind him, that's saying something.
We saw that there was one particular place on the track that you were a little bit better than he was. Looked like you were a lot better on the entry and the exit of turn 3. Was that kind of where you focused on maybe setting him up to make a move on the front straightaway?
Exactly. If you want to be quick off a turn, it needs to be those two. And, because, of course, they're close to the finish line. And, I just didn't have it. But congratulations to Robert.
One place that we saw you have a tight battle with Robert as well was coming to pit road there for that first round of green flag pit stops. This racetrack and its pit road so narrow because you've got that pit wall separating the racetrack from pit road. So how difficult was it getting onto pit road when you had about 3-4 other of the race leaders around you?
Well, we wanted to push it and stretch out, get a little gap, and we could settle it later. And so we did, and we had a couple close calls, but it all worked out this time.
Well, it certainly did. You bring it home second place here tonight. You got to lead a good portion of this race. I don't think your car fell outside of the podium all night long outside of the drivers doing the green flag pit stop strategy. So great overall performance for you here tonight at Indy. We're going to let you do some shout outs now, Chuck.
Well, I appreciate RTG for giving us a great place to race. Terry and Dante and all the owners, admins, they do a heck of a job and make it fun for us. And of course, you guys for putting the race on TV. We really appreciate that too.
Well, that's Chuck McClure. He finishes second place here tonight at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Congrats on a great performance, a great overall run, and wish you luck next week at the Monster Mile of Dover.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And down to victory lane we go to get a word with Robert Bauckham, who led a race-leading 44 laps here today. Robert, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
Yeah, 10-4.
Well, man, I mean, I think if we had to look for the moment of the race that got you this win, it would probably have to be getting off pit road first during that first cycle of green flag pit stops. Track position kind of helped you the rest of the way, but you had some challenges there in those final few laps. How much were you looking in the rearview mirror instead of out the windshield?
Pretty much the whole lap. No, it's funny because last time we were here, I think it was in the trucks, and Chuck was leading, and he had some challenges, and I told him I would stick with him and not leave him out, and I kind of pushed him to a win. So I was kind of hoping for the same thing, but like I told him, hey, if you get the run, I have no problem with it. And he's here to win just like I am, but I just had to make sure I kept that air on that nose there at the end because once the tires fell off, as long as I kept it keeping that air down there, it made him tight, and I was hoping he wouldn't be able to get a run doing that.
Yeah, let's talk about the tires because I was hearing some drivers there on that final pit stop. They were considering the possibility of maybe doing a two-tire pit stop. You were in a group of four there. Was there any possibility of maybe you trying to play that strategy, or was it you had to keep those guys with you in that lead pack?
Well, I noticed the gas went to a can and a half down the back straightaway. So if we had to only take a can, two tires might have been a thing, but it really wasn't worth it. We had all kind of just made a deal to stick together and just push and try to pull away from the rest of everybody else and just kind of settle at the end. So I definitely think forward tires, especially as hot. I mean, we were coming in the pit road hot as heck. So I mean, it was kind of burning tires up anyway. So I think the four tires was definitely the way to go.
Now, of course, the one highlight of this race that kind of shuffled things up was that caution coming out there just past lap 20, apparently for debris when the 13's engine let go. You had already been to pit road. It had you restarting up in the race lead because of the fact that drivers that had stayed out had to come to pit road. Did that surprise you, or were you expecting that that whole thing was going to completely cycle around?
No, once I seen us on pit road and I seen the caution come out, I kind of knew that we were going to be good because even if you pit under green here, you don't go a lap down. So I knew we were going to be good right there. I just wasn't sure if anybody had pitted ahead of us and was going to come out in front. That's kind of why we kind of pitted. We could have probably won another 4 or 5 laps at the end, but I was worried that a caution would come out and whoever already pitted would have been in front of us. And of course, I listened to y'all's broadcast, so y'all made sure to let me know about that. So that's the reason we went ahead and pitted. Definitely want to be out front.
Well, Robert, obviously a tremendous run for you here today. You end up leading the most laps here tonight, 44 of the 70 laps. You led the most important one. You get to kiss the yard of bricks here tonight at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we're now going to turn the microphone over to you and do some shout outs.
All right, first thing I want to do, I want to give a shout out to Chuck McClure, Jeremy Jeffries, and Andre. Man, you can't ask for better drivers. I mean, they put on a show. You know, if you win or even finish in top five in RTG, you've really done something. So I mean, it's amazing the drivers we have over here. Next, I want to give a shout out to you guys, Flatout Racing Network. I mean, love your broadcast. Listen to it while I'm racing. Can't ask for better. And then of course, RTG for giving us a great place to race. And then I also want to take a minute here and give a shout out to Brian Wolf. He does a thing for a family for a little young boy named Cannon. Justice for Cannon. If you're out there, you know, give a shout out to the family. You know, they actually get on here and listen, and it makes them so happy because I know Cannon was definitely in the racing. So that's why you always hear Justice for Cannon because I mean that's something special that a driver makes sure he takes the time to give a shout out to them, you know, because that's something special to just to hear their name. And then of course I want to give a shout out to my wife Jennifer, my daughter Caitlin, and my niece Peyton. They're downstairs cheering me on, so it's kind of neat. I got my own little fan club here.
Well, Robert Bauckham gave his fan club something to cheer about tonight. He takes the checkered flag here in the fifth race of the season for the RTG Aero 88 series at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Enjoy your win, Robert, and we look forward to seeing what you can do next week at the Monster Mile.
All right, thank y'all so much. Have a nice night.
And so, as a checkered flag waves on yet another RTG event, Robert Bauckham is your winner here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As we mentioned, next week, these drivers are going to have to tackle the concrete mile known as Dover International Speedway. Going to be a crazy one there. Another tire killer, as these drivers had to deal with a tire shredder here today at Indy. Next time that FRN is going to be covering the RTG Aero 88 series will be on October 21st. We'll be bringing you coverage of the 8th race of the season at RTG Motor Speedway. So be sure to tune in for that. But thank you to everybody that tuned into tonight's race. We hope that you enjoyed our coverage here from Indianapolis. And we hope that you tune into our future broadcasts that are coming up here during the course of this week. Tomorrow night, we've got RTG. They're back as they're continuing on their season for the RTG Talladega Challenge. We've got the Rapid Fire Pizza Series off this week, but it's Talladega for the Veterans of Foreign War Cup Series drivers. That's going to be on Saturday. And on Sunday, we've got, on Saturday as well, I should say, Saturday evening, we continue on the playoffs for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go. It's playoff race number 2 for those drivers. And if any indication of our first playoff race is, showing us what kind of racing we're going to have, you're going to be in for quite a special treat. But thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. I've been Seth Cole, and thanks for watching another broadcast here, courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.